Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you so much for joining me here. I hope you're having an amazing day. Happy Wednesday or hump day to you, depending on how you want to look at it. We're going to take a look here at Bitcoin, see what's going on. And obviously, if you're new to the channel, appreciate you joining up here. We're going to take a look at some volume profiles, kind of see where we're at. We can kind of assume here. Once again, I know it's not best to assume. You can presume if you'd like. 32,200 is effectively that resistance level. Okay, so based on volume, we have the most amount of potential resistance there. So the price comes up here. It keeps getting rejected at that level. So again, wouldn't be a bad profit target or profit taking target. And of course, just generally something that you want to focus on. Make sure we understand that is a range. Gonna have some trouble. Okay. We'll look at the fair value gap here as well, and kind of a few other key factors, such as high block capital and a few other things as well. More so a big picture macro stuff that I think is really important to recognize. So if you are new to the channel, again, not a financial advisor, love to teach people to trade. If you want to become a better trader, CryptoCash.tech is a site. You can follow me over here on our new and established partnership with BingX. Got some awesome exclusive giveaways too between now and July 31st. There's a link down below. You can register and you qualify for easy deposit bonus rewards. It's just an awesome exchange because there's no VPN or KYC required here in the US or in Canada and other countries. Okay, so really cool stuff. Be sure to check that out. What we want to jump into though first with Bitcoin, I feel, would be to say a monthly analysis here and just kind of taking a look at the big picture and working our way down. I know we're only halfway through the month roughly, but it is important to kind of understand where we're at in the big picture. So we're going to take a look at Bitstamp. That's one of the oldest charts you can find. It goes all the way back to 2011. And it kind of helps us understand with different moving averages roughly what its history looks like and where we're at now. So the reason why I think this is important because there's some simple moving averages and a few other things that are kind of relevant in the past, what they've done before, and where we're at now. So what I mean by that is we take a look at the monthly here, and we take a look at its history with this moving average convergence divergence. While this is a massive swing down and up, if you will, in the recent past, it's because there's a lot more volume, right? You just got to recognize that. But if you scroll in to the previous time frames, we can see that anytime there's a convergence, the price goes up, and obviously a divergence, the price goes down. I think you probably already know what that means, but generally speaking here, there's a simple kind of understanding that we are swinging upwards in the convergence here. So for lack of better terms, the likelihood of a further upside makes sense. Once again, there's a lot of different reasons why the price could still pull back. I feel like we might see a big gap at 28,500 get filled. But once again, the price action should continue upwards from here based on that momentous trend. We can also see that stochastics is showing us that we are, partway through this momentous push as well. Okay, so if you look at its history, anytime stochastic comes up this level, the price action will have a tendency of pulling back. And we can kind of see if we look in here as well. For the most part, it goes on some pretty ambitious runs there. So again, there's a good 2-year time frame where the price just continued to go up. That's not exactly what's happening now, but the bottom line here is that we are above 50 on the RSI. And to me, that's a really, really important thing because anytime we dip below 50 on the RSI in the past, it's stayed there for roughly about 6 to 12 months. Okay? So this I think you remember maybe back in 2018, if you were around, we saw that nice little dip there. But again, here as well, previously last year in 2022, that lasted for what? April all the way through to March. So that was 1 full year under 50 on the RSI. So those things, kind of putting those things together, tells us a lot about the fact that the price action should continue higher from here because we're above that as moving average. Okay? So again, to me, I think that's a very positive sign. I think it's definitely something we want to look for and understand that the monthly looks still pretty strong. We're above the 50-day set moving average and also above the 20. Okay? So these are important things to be above. So for the most part, again, the likelihood of the price action pulling back, I think, is slightly high, but it shouldn't be as massive a pullback as some are saying. Okay? I personally feel like we're still going to continue to uptrend, and if we come down, 26, 27, 28,000 should be the bottom. I don't think we're going to see 25 or lower. I think that's very unrealistic. Again, based on history. History doesn't always repeat itself, but it oftentimes does. That being said, we take a look at the weekly. We're above all 3 moving averages. We look at the RSI. We're above 50 and below 70. So again, there's room for downside, but there's also much more room for growth too. We can also see the MACDs also converging and diverging. Here in the last 4 weeks, we're starting to see a shift in momentum down, and there could be potential further downside here because of that. But once again, these moving averages, the 2 more important moving averages are averaging themselves out at 27.5 to 28,000. So right in that range there, we got a pretty good amount of support. So those are things that I think are very impactful and beneficial. I like to focus on that. So I got questions about macro and different things like that. I like to talk about it, and it's important for us to recognize that the larger time frames are looking pretty good. Okay, and things get kind of dicey when we start getting smaller time frames. We'll talk about that here in a minute. But looking at high block capital, let's switch on over here, shift gears a little bit, and kind of see that we are still getting liquidated for our long positions. Big surprise, right? The price is coming down. We're coming into that 29,000 range. That's a scary point for a lot of people. You can see that we can have a little bit more fear and greed indexes. The number's getting lower, which implies there's more fear. And that is essentially one of those things where it tells us, generally speaking, that this is an uncomfortable place. We can also see that whale retail data, or whale versus retail data, is essentially lower right now. And in other words, whales are more active than retail. They typically are always active during lower price points. This tells me that we're likely at a price point where the whales are wanting to keep the price action in place, and the price shouldn't go too much lower. Okay? Again, shouldn't, couldn't, there's a whole lot of differences there, but on the bottom line here is that based on what we've seen here so far with history, whales a lot more active when the price action gets to a quote-unquote low point. We saw that same exact thing at 25,000 a few weeks ago. Okay. Now again, for some reason, the charts aren't pulling up here for high block capital. That happens occasionally, but the bottom line is I've been looking at this pretty consistently every single day, and you'll see whales much more active when the price is low. So that leads me to believe that we see a lot more support here, and we could and should see the price action continue higher from here. I feel comfortable with our long positions we have. They're low leverage and low position sizes, and I wouldn't worry too much about it if you're currently following me or copying me on my BingX copy trading account. Again, links down below for all that if you're curious. It's all public. If you look down below here, though, we can see longs. We have more longs opening today and yesterday than being closed. It's a positive sign. It tells us that there's a shift in mentality that 29,900 could be the bottom. We can also see that more shorts are getting closed than opened. That also tells us that there's a consideration for the price action to come up further here. But once again, there's a good chance we could see the price come up and then down. I still feel like that fair value gap could get filled, and we just got to be aware of that. So let's take a quick look here at open interest. Let's go ahead and look at the longs first and see where we're at. If we take a look at the longs here for open interest, we can see a lot of longs here recent within the last hour at 29,900, and then previous ones at 30,000. So longs are hedged pretty heavy at 29,920 / 30,000. Okay. If we take a look at shorts, they're probably going to be some late shorts, is my guess. Yep. Look at these late shorts here, down at 29,700. They're currently underwater. Hoping to not get squeezed out. So if you do see the price shoot up, it's because those shorts have to close their position due to the fact that their stop losses are getting hit. And there's a good chance their stop losses are up here in the 30,000 range. We can see some of them already getting triggered here, which tells me that if we can break past 30,000, a closure today above 30, we'd be in pretty good shape. Okay, so really, really looking for that kind of confirmational sign. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into the daily time frame here. And just to quickly note, if we look at the fair value gap, just kind of reiterate, we got a lot of volume here, a lot of value, for lack of a better term. So oftentimes you'll see these candle wicks that are aggressive, comes right back up. We could very well see a candle wick as low as 28,400. I've got a buy order in at 28,500 for a long spot position. Okay, again, do what you want. Don't do it because I'm saying it, but generally speaking, if we do get that wick down there, then I'll get a nice little average down for my price action. Okay. At least for my spot exchange. I like to always try to add to my position at lower price points, and I like the thought of 28.5. Okay, so I feel like we're going to spend very little time in that range, but hypothetically we could get there if that gets filled. Again, fair value gaps and CME gaps get filled often. We do have a large CME gap at 21,000, which I do not think will get filled, but there is still potential there too. It's very, very minor though. Taking a look at the daily though, what we want to look at is a few things. First of all, it's we're treading water here, if I'm not mistaken, right at this level here on the RSI. So we're right at 50 on the RSI. Hypothetically, we should get a bounce from here. Again, no guarantees, but oftentimes 50 will technically work as a support level initially. You can see previously it worked as a resistance, and then the price broke through. Obviously, the price could still break through to the downside. Keep that in mind. But we have a lot of money. The money flow index is coming back up, and stochastic is telling us that we should see that shift in momentum upwards. So I'm willing to speculate we're going to see some kind of upward trajectory here moving forward with Bitcoin. Again, I'm still biased towards the price wicking down to that 29,000 range, but it might not happen right away. We might see another increase before that happens. But there's no doubt the last 4 trading days have been pretty terrible. Keep in mind, 2 of those trading days were weekends, so kind of not super, super important or relevant there. Now, what we want to take a look at here is a few other things here as well. Let's go ahead and take a look at the 4-hour time frame and kind of see what that's telling us. And if we take a look at the 4-hour, we can see here pretty clear that we're below 50 on the RSI, and we've been under this level for some time, so it's not a surprise. For the last 5 days, we've been under there. So a break above 50 on the RSI to me would be a very impactful, positive thing. That would require us to probably break through that 30,300 mark, because we have a lot of volume at that level. You got to keep that in mind. Once we get above this level, we should be in much better shape to be able to continue higher. But there's no doubt that there's more selling pressure at this level, and that 30,200, 30,300 is providing a strong resistance. We take a look at the MACD, we can see the MACD is swinging upwards. We still have that momentum. The good news is we've broken this lower low pattern so far. You can see it more definitively on the hourly. But at this point, if this next low here, whatever that looks like, is lower, is higher than this previous low, we should be in good shape to continue to establish higher lows. And that's what a trend reversal looks like, is to establish higher lows first, and then of course lower or higher highs after that. Okay, so I'm not super concerned with the lack of higher highs, but I want to make sure that we are seeing higher lows first, which we are tentatively, as long as this next low doesn't come any lower than the current price point. We should be in good shape. So 4-hour looks, I would say, just right in the middle, if you will, kind of not awesome, not terrible. And if we take a look at the hourly, we can kind of see here as well that on the hourly, we are establishing that higher lows so far. Keep in mind, again, that the smaller time frame you go, the less reliable these patterns become. But the bottom line is that there are tactically lower lows here and lower highs in the last 24 hours. So that's not fantastic. But as long as this next low here, whichever low occurs next, isn't lower than this, we should be in good shape. Okay? Or even if it's parallel, that would be a kind of a double bottom, if you will, and that could also work out favorably. Right now, a little too early to presume, but the 4-hour time frame is telling us we have higher lows, and I think that's more important. On the hourly, what else we want to look at here would be TD sequential. We came up to an 8 here previously. That was over sometime yesterday. We hit that, and now we're down to a 5. So hypothetically, we could see another 4 or 5 hours of continuation to the side or down. But at this point, I'm speculating we're going to see the price action continue to increase. If we take a look at the 15-minute time frame, we kind of look at some indications here. We do got some green lights here on our CC Golden, letting us know that the price action has some confirmational signs that we are looking fairly decent. We also can see here, if we take a look at stochastics, we are also seeing that there's a shift in momentum to the upside. We had that double bottom on stochastics, which really kind of tells us that we should be able to see further upside here. So good news is this guy right here is currently higher than this. So if we can continue to establish those higher highs and higher low patterns, that'll translate to the 4-hour time frame and then the daily. So in truth, we have slightly favorable consideration for the price to go up than down, even though there is a stark reality here that we are still in a downtrend and further downside could occur. So take that how you will, but to me, 29,900, a closure above that today would be big. We want to make sure that we're closing higher than that 29.9 range. I would prefer like somewhere in the 30,000 range or higher today, but I'll take a 29.9 or higher. That'd be perfect. Okay, so again, at this point, I don't think we're in dire straits just yet, but we're definitely in a position where it's kind of make or break. We keep retesting this low point. It could very well break down lower, but at this rate, it does look like we're seeing a lot more whale activity at this level, and that to me is a positive sign. Could imply that we're going to see that retest of that 31,000 fair value gap first before we break down further. So I'm looking honestly for a short closer to 31,000, and then more so a long between now and then. We already kind of have a long open, so just keep in mind that we are in pretty decent shape here. So I think we're in a situation where we could very well see the price action increase. I would just wait for confirmation today. A closure above 30,000 I think is a good starting point for us. Hope this makes sense for you. Obviously, you want to become a better trader. CryptoCash.tech is a site, link down below. Obviously, I greatly appreciate your support to those who have been following and or supporting the channel. And I'm happy that I'm being able to find some success for you too. Make sure you register with BingX and get that moving forward. Awesome exchange. Thanks again for all the benefits you guys are providing for our community. Really appreciate it. We'll see you on the next one. Have a good rest of your day.